Hi, I'm Curt with RealmIQ. This is our podcast, RealmIQ Sessions, where we talk about everything AI with AI leaders from around the world. Please give us a follow or subscribe. And today's guest is Jessica Spencer. She's an AI educator, among many other things. Welcome, Jessica. Why don't you tell us about your interesting background? And I know you're a fellow creative, so I love to have creative people on this show. So tell us more.
Hi, Curt. Thank you so much for having me today. And hi, everyone. So I'm Jess. I am from the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I have been fascinated with AI and studying it for about the past 6 years. I know about when I started studying it, I went through one of those certification programs through IBM where you actually got to build out chatbots with IBM Watson and got to create a computer vision model and everything, which it was just so fascinating. And I think I just started seeing all the possibilities with it. And over the past year, it's just been absolutely insane to see how everything has exploded with generative AI. And I know I have a background in marketing and an MBA. And from a business standpoint, the ability to create efficiencies in what we do. But what I'm really excited about with the efficiencies is it leaves so much more room for the creative piece of what we do. So, you get the ideation, the brainstorming, and the validation of certain things done so quickly. And then all of a sudden, you have all of this time to expand on those ideas and to, select the best ideas from those. And so I think that's what is really cool about AI to me is the room that it leaves for us to embrace even more humanity, which sounds kind of weird, but it's fascinating.
No,
So
I believe that because the big question is, great, so what are you going to do with this extra time you have by being more efficient? If you're in an employer situation, is the employer just going to ask you to do more and work harder, or do you get time off? Like, hey, I worked my 3.5 days, but pay me for 5. But I'm hopeful like you that by using these time-saving tools is that we can tackle bigger problems and achieve a higher level of learning and understanding and use that saved time to better ourselves and train ourselves in a way to think differently and get out of the menial tasks that take up so much bandwidth and time and energy, frankly. So I share that view with you. So here's hoping that we can solve some of the world's problems, and if not us, maybe the next generation who's going to just grow up with this is just the normal way to do things, right?
exactly.
I'm hopeful for that next generation.
Yeah. And
So
I totally agree, Kurt. I think this really could be a catalyst to, really drive our society to the next level. And I know there's been, trials of the 4-day work week and things like that in different areas around the world. And there's been a little bit of momentum towards that, but it feels like we've needed that spark to really get that type of stuff going. And I think technologies like this and the rate of disruption that we're seeing right now, we are going to have to rethink how we're approaching societal norms because what's happening right now, I don't know that it makes sense. But are we paying people appropriately where they can actually make a living and everything? And so I don't know. I think there's just a lot of dominoes to think
yeah,
about
well,
within the whole
I
process.
mean, if you're reading the trends, it looks like if you're AI trained, you're making maybe 35% more than your colleagues who aren't trained. So that's a positive message. Job displacement is another factor, but job creation, I think, not only counteracts that, but I think 10x's it because there's going to be more jobs created than you ever knew there was before. And they're all on the boards now. There's, all kinds of some of the similar job descriptions, but they just put an AI in front of it, an AI computer programmer, AI coder, an AI educator, an AI, and so it's just pervasive, right? Just like, and I really appreciate the fact that you a real branding and marketing background because when people jumped into the fray with the release of ChatGPT 3 only 1 year ago, they came from all walks of life, but could immediately label themselves as an AI expert. And it's like, really? So you were a drummer for a band yesterday, and today you're the AI guy? Really? So, there's a lot of enthusiasm, certainly, but also, the word or term AI expert needs to be considered carefully because, there's a lot of people like you and I have been doing creative stuff for many, many years. And now we find ourselves with these tools and they help us, right? Help us be more creative and remove a lot of barriers. But, so we could claim we have a different expertise than someone who just has a computer and, hey, look, I'm making a flying pig that's colored in a rainbow. Isn't that cool? So I don't know what your thoughts about that are, but there's a lot of noise right at this point, and a
Yeah.
lot of bandwidth being taken up around, hey, look what I did with this program. And I'm always looking for people who are using these programs for good and don't necessarily brag about it. They're just,
Yeah.
they've integrated it into their workflow and their lives, and they're just using it like software, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
when word processing became popular with, I have Word from Microsoft, where people posting, hey, I actually wrote something in Word today and I posted it on LinkedIn, which didn't exist back then. But it's just
Mhm.
crazy, right?
It is. And I think people are definitely they're seeing the opportunity right now. And for some, it's opportunity to, grow their skills, to make the world better. For a lot, it's to make money off of it, which is fine. But it does create a lot of noise. And I don't know. I think it's been interesting because there is a lot of enthusiasm around it that I think is cool just with kind of the overall there's a lot of noise, but there's also this camaraderie around sharing and around, helping each other think to that next level and pushing each
Yeah.
other forward. And that's been really, really cool to see. And I think, we're in a time of reskilling right now where we are changing the ways that we leverage the skills that we have. And I think people coming from many different backgrounds to share those ideas and come together, that's exciting. So whatever stage you're in with this, I'm just excited to see people having the interest in adopting this and finding ways to start leveraging it and making their lives better and sharing ways that other people could make their lives better. So
Well, you're a good person looking at that in a positive light, and I will agree with you that as a AI community, I'm very encouraged that it's been very collaborative, informative, and easy to connect and talk with people from all walks of life, all different professions, and share stories on how it's impacted their lives. That's really the mission of this show, is to have conversations, because there's too many YouTube videos on how to do prompting and how to create stuff. And I think what's important for adoption is the conversation. And so, like, we're having a great conversation today, is like, the more people hear these conversations, I think that will kind of remove some of the barriers of entry for people who are hesitant, and also share the struggle, because it's not a perfect thing. It's presented as perfect many times, but there's a struggle with getting results that you want. And I think being a true creative, you may have a vision in your mind, and it just won't be realized using any platform. And so the results are, what, it's good enough for me, and I have a certain level of creative taste that is maybe higher than others. But many times I find myself taking an image and going back into Photoshop and reworking or compositing, and making it closer to what I had originally envisioned. But I have the capacity and tool set and experience to do that. Other people don't. They're just like, oh, this flying pig looks good to me, so I'm posting it. Look, Ma, I drew a pig.
and it's cool to get to that first level, but I think that's what we have to remember is it's a first level, and then that leaves more opportunity to make it something amazing. And, I think the cool thing too is like with a lot of these tools, there's so many different ones coming out. There's a learning curve where how can you chain different ones together to create different outcomes? And that's been fascinating to me. And I think that's one thing. Like there's a lot of just amazing creators on LinkedIn that are posting all these neat ideas. And that's something I always love is like what different technologies are they using in their processes to create like this amazing augmentation of what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean that's multimodal. I call it platform hopping. It's
Yeah.
really you're trying to reach a desired outcome, and you're not satisfied with one platform, so you hop to the next to try to combine or try a different prompt to get the results you want. And you inevitably create your own workflows around creative problem solving with AI. And that takes a lot of time and energy, and again, like I say, nothing's easy, and you don't get that first result is never really what you wanted. If it is, then man, you're a really good prompter. But
Yeah. Or you got really lucky.
or lucky, I don't know, but it's amazing how you arrive at different solutions on each platform because they're pulling from different sources, and they actually want to be creative too. I tell this to other people I talk with or who I advise on how to use these tools. They're actually competing with you for creativity because they want to be creative, right? But
Yeah.
they're inspired by what sources they're pulling from, which can be controversial. But it's trying to outdo your creativity, and that's the disconnect with. Well, no, I had this in mind, and they say, well, no, I saw it this way, and I want to do it this way. It's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't work for me. I'm going to go over to Midjourney instead of Dolly 3 and finish out this job. So
That's another thing that's been so interesting though, is like everybody has more access to communicate their vision now of what they're trying to do. And even if that's not the end product, like if you're working with a team who has like all the skill sets and like design and marketing and whatever it is that you're trying to do, product development, like all of those pieces, they can so much more easily come together because like almost instantaneously you've kind of created not just words of what you're trying to do, but an image or a video or like, something that's so tangible that it very easily lets people know this is the direction you want to head in. And I think pulling people together around that common direction and goal it's fascinating.
yeah, I think in the creative process, the notion that these are pre-visualization tools. Sometimes they can be the final result, but they can also be used, for that brainstorming, for that previs of what a scene looks like or a composition. And then you may take that, to the next level and do your own film shoot or movie or commercial. But I think it's a way to get really quick consensus building and build excitement around, well, look what I did just with AI, and imagine this direction if we, took it to the next level. So,
Exactly.
I don't know that it completely replaces some of these, highly professional finishing type of approaches to creative, but I think they definitely help with the brainstorming and creative process so that it gives direction, right? You can imagine like if a location scout, right? Even a location scout could put a prompt in and say, look, I'm looking for an old west town that kind of looks like this. And then then you work with someone out of state or whatever in the location you might be filming in,
Yeah.
and is there a town that kind of looks like this, and there'll be a connection, but it's it makes it easier than old western town as words saying, I'm looking for an old western
Yeah.
town. It's like, no, here's three different angles of this town. Is there anything like that? Or Mr. Set Builder, can you build something like this, right?
Yes.
So I think these are powerful tools, certainly within the creative community, to communicate a vision
Yeah.
that even if it's couched as pre-visualization, we're increasing our communication skills. Creative is a hard thing to talk about because many people aren't necessarily educated in how to communicate creative direction. And so if they're given tools to show, you know,
Yeah.
something that aligns with what they had in their head, then hey, you're one step closer to communicating exactly what you wanted or envisioned. And I think that's a good thing. It streamlines the processes to get better results, and those are all good
Yeah.
things.
It is, and it gives us a common language to speak from, which is really fascinating. I love music, and music, I don't care what language you speak, like there's
Universe,
something when you hear it, like everybody feels a certain way. There's that emotional response. There's the things that you imagine as you're hearing it. And I feel like what we're seeing right now, there's a lot of parallels with it. So I think another thing beyond just the ideation and, kind of communicating the vision, I'm really excited kind of with our ability to have more access to creating, even if it's not like, high production, like quality studio work or something. Like most people don't have access to that. They don't have the budget or the means
yeah,
to that capital to do something like that. And like I was excited. So I'm a singer songwriter. I had a song that I did like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago and recorded it and it just kind of sat there. And then I was using a tool called Kyber. It You could create like these really cool music videos. And so I kind of described what I wanted and then I put it in and did like this kind of like flip book animation type feel. But I don't know, it brought life to something that I'd written a while back that just like I didn't envision ever being able to have something like that with
right,
it. It
yeah,
was cool. I don't know, it's just so neat.
yeah, no. And again, you're upping your games and upping your game in terms of how you're creative and using music and these tools to get you to a higher level. So I mean that's achieving the things it is supposed to,
It's
how
cool.
helping you be a better creative, more well-rounded, and build more excitement for your prior work, your existing work, and your future work.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So tell me about how this type of innovation can be used for good, because there's a lot of doomsayers out there in terms of it's only going to be used for bad, and there will always be bad actors, and hopefully governments and can control that. Who knows what's happening with the regulations, AI regulations. But in the interim, I believe if we focus on positive, it outshines the bad stuff. So what are your thoughts about innovation for good with AI?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's one thing that just really excites me about it is I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tool and it's an absolutely amazing tool that I think we can all get a lot of, good out of in different ways. I think a lot of it's applying it to, problems that we want to solve and not thinking about just learning the technology, but what is it that we're trying to achieve and what is it that we're trying to overcome. And I mean, especially like I know there's been talk of like what is it, the quantum computing, and if we can get to that, just the number of simulations that it's going to be able to run that could potentially create some amazing medical treatments and things that we just haven't found possible in the past. And
Right.
I mean, I think the future with that is really exciting. But I mean, even right now there is just, I know, like personally, like the ways that I have been able to be more productive, better serve my clients with some of the marketing stuff that I'm doing. I created a chatbot the other day with the new GPT model that's for foster and adoptive parents to show, so my husband and I, we adopted 4 of our kids. And so, part of what I want to do is like spread the word around that a little bit more of, that this is a way that you can, you
Be a
know,
family.
yeah,
Our,
build
our
your
first
family.
our
And
first son is adopted, by the way, so I'm a
oh, that's so
believer,
cool.
and best thing we ever did.
It's amazing. And I think a lot of folks like with the foster care system, there's so many kids that they need stability and they need that support. And I know when my husband and I were starting to look into it, we we didn't even know that was an avenue. And I mean, it makes sense now, but I think that there's just not a lot of awareness around it. So I'm excited with being able to easily develop tools like this that can serve people with that knowledge and very specialized knowledge. And now that it's connected, to Bing with
Yeah.
ChatGPT, which is crazy.
Right. No, and I love that because I've talked about playing with purpose, playing with these tools. But if you do it with a purpose, you are going into it with a specific outcome that benefits you because there's some passion project that you have. And if you use these tools to solve that problem, then you're using the tools in the right way versus just playing with, hey, I can make drawings or paintings. And that's innovation for good, truly, because you have a mission, you have a passion project, and you're using these tools to get the message out there. And I think that's fantastic. It's a great application, and has nothing to do with making money. Even it's just to like, how can I use these tools to share something I'm passionate about and increase good information out there. So I applaud you for that.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been awesome though. Like just the power that we have as individuals now to, really create something throughout the whole process with fairly limited knowledge from like a coding standpoint and that type of thing. I mean, you take the knowledge that you have about the specific domain that you're trying to create something in and you validate what's being created, but you don't have to have all the technical knowledge now to really make a difference in the world. And that is so exciting.
It is. I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I wasn't using AI tools to help me in the production of it. So, it was just an impasse before. It seemed complicated. It's like, how do you do it? How do people do this? And I learned how to use the tools because I watched some other people using the tools and it's like, oh, I can do that.
That's awesome.
And so I'm able to produce these quickly and get them up, and and again, this is all about education, so it's fulfilling my passion for helping people navigate this change that we're going through, which is a major change. I look at it as opportunity. So what
Absolutely.
else are you doing? I know you've been an advocate and maybe spoken at some conferences. Are you doing any of that, or
Yeah. So actually, you and I both spoke at the AI Impact
that's right.
conference recently, which Haley Wilson did. It was absolutely amazing. So that was the main one that I did recently. I do have a series right now that I'm doing with a friend of mine. So she actually has a background in like counseling and therapy and everything, but we thought it would be neat to do a joint session around making technology a little bit more simplistic, because I think a lot of people, they go into it this mindset of like, it's so complicated and
Right.
it's not for me, I can't do this, and which is understandable. I mean, things are changing so fast right now, and there's it's a lot to keep up with, but I think we're at a time right now where there's just so much you can do if you can start adopting some of these tools and like really start building those skill sets. And it's something that's attainable for a lot more attainable than I think folks realize.
Oh
So
yeah, for many people.
yeah.
Well, please keep us informed of your program and we'd be happy to promote it. I have a weekly newsletter. Hopefully you subscribe to that, and we announce things there. And so we love to support you in your efforts.
Thank you
And
so much.
yeah, and then I give people at the end of these discussions opportunity to plug yourself. How do people get in contact with you if they're interested in the work that you're doing, the causes that you're promoting? How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my email address is jess@penguinconnective.com. And you can check out my website, which has like some free lead magnets and stuff on, like, I guess I shouldn't call it lead magnets if I'm like referring to it. It has some free resources.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Around
Valuable resources
valuable
at a
resources.
reasonable cost, free.
So anyways, I think there are things that can help people. So I have a free course out there on ChatGPT for teachers, which that one's actually been kind of cool. I had about 1,800 folks that have signed up for that. It seems like there's some good response to it, which is exciting. And because I think for teachers in particular, there's just so much that these technologies can do. So, but
Yeah,
anyways, that is out
teachers.
there.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, this whole teaching category. How can we help teachers, right?
Yes.
They're doing 3 people's jobs for not much money, buying their own art supplies for their students, and you're like, how can this technology help them? Let alone, how are they teaching it in school? I had a great conversation with Philip Alcock this week, who we now have a session up on Spotify and YouTube. That he was an educator teaching 5th graders, and he brought AI into the classroom, and these kids just loved it. He said they were literally skipping to school in a whole new way because they just loved going to school and like doing this new stuff. And that's fantastic. And it makes me very hopeful of the next generation, that they're not going to be the doomsayers. They're going to be the ones that just embrace it, and it's just going to be part of their lives. Just like, when we were growing up, the internet suddenly became part of our life, and it's just part of our life, right? So, well, listen, Jess, can I call you Jess versus Jessica?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Thank you, Jess, for coming on, and we certainly want to have you back and tell us about other things that you're doing. And for those of you who are fans of this show, tune in and catch more of these RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeart Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Say that 10 times fast. And please follow us and subscribe. Thanks, Jessica, and we will get you back on. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Curt.
Thanks, everyone. You can now catch RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast channels, including Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Podcasts. Or listen to the full sessions at curtdoty.co/RealmIQ. If your company is interested in reaching an audience of AI professionals and decision makers to promote your event or product, we do have sponsorship opportunities. If you enjoy these discussions on AI, please push that subscribe button below. I'll see you in the next video.
RealmIQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
Subscribe to our Media Slam newsletter and learn more about the intersection of design, content, and technology.
CurtDoty.co. Branding, marketing, and product development.